Okay, hi everyone. I'm just going to give a few more minutes for people to join. Please do send it on the group chats and everything, just so we can be sure that everyone is getting access. Okay, hi everyone. I'm just going to give a few more minutes for people to join. Please do send it on the group chats and everything, just so we can be sure that everyone is getting access. Okay, hi everyone. I'm just going to give a few more minutes for people. Caitlin, I haven't switched on the sound yet. We're still waiting for people. So yeah, and then Mr. Zondo is going to speak to us first, and then we'll get started. Okay, hi everyone. We're going to get started. If you don't know me by now, I'm your graduate assistant, and I'm going to be lecturing this course to you guys. I think we're going to have a great time together, and if you have people still needing to join this, please just direct them to the Are You Connected page. The links are there under the announcements, and I sent the YouTube link to the Telegram group as well. Just to start off, Sizwe is going to speak to us about our essay that's coming up. You may notice that there is an essay that we have to write. And yeah, so let's just hear what that's about.
Great, cool. Thanks so much, Emma. Hi, everyone. I'm not going to take too much time. I just need to briefly talk to you about your essay and a few other admin things, okay? Okay, before we start, there is, I'm sure you are aware you need to write an exam in June. There is a very, very high possibility that your exam is going to be a sit-down exam, okay? So traditionally for the last 2 years, the exam has been online, but the university is trying to move to sit-down exams, okay? So I just want to just brief you on that. There is a high possibility that your exam is going to be sit-down, and I will give you more information about this, okay? And then the other thing just to be aware of, if you're writing your developmental psychology tests today, opens at 5 o'clock and it closes at 5 tomorrow. Okay, so please just be aware of the time. If you run into any technical problems, it happens all the time, please feel free to either email your lecturer or to email Emma for any assistance. Okay, then lastly, I just want to talk very, very briefly about your essay. So you, in Psychology 1, you need to submit 1 essay per semester, right? So you have 2 semesters. You submit an essay in semester 1, and then you submit another essay in semester 2. So just very briefly, the first semester ends on the 27th of May, and we need to submit an essay. The first dates that I had was the 19th of May, but I think that date is a bit too close, okay? So you're going to submit your first essay on the 23rd of May. Okay, so please note your first essay is due on the 23rd of May. Okay, so basically the structure of your essay is briefly as follows. So we're going to give you two options for your essay, and then you need to choose one of the options. So option one is going to be an essay from developmental psychology, which was taught by Mr. Fontaine. And then option two is going to be an option from biological psychology, which will be taught by Emma, right? So basically what you need to do is you need to choose one of those two topics and you just submit one of those essays, okay? Please don't do two essays, just do one essay. Okay, so when Emma is after the class, she's gonna send you her essay topic. And then Mr. Fontaine is also going to send you his essay topic. Okay, so I just want to go through a few things that you need to be aware of. Okay, so the first thing is all the Psychology 1 essays have a marking criteria, right? So basically, we're going to give you a marking criteria. You need to follow the criteria to help you to format your essay, right? So this is just a basic marking criteria just to see what it looks like. Obviously, Emma is going to send you her marking criteria, and then Mr. Fontaine is going to send you his marking criteria, right? So what the criteria does, firstly, you need to use what is called an APA guideline. So we're going to teach you how to do APA referencing during your tutorials, okay? So please make sure all your essays follow an APA guideline. Please don't stress, don't panic about this. The tutors are going to show you what this looks like, and then they're going to take you through the whole thing. Another thing, very briefly, please make sure your essay is typed. It has to be between 5 and 6 pages. Please don't submit handwritten essays. Yeah, I'm not going to go through all this stuff. Obviously, you're going to go through this during your tutorials. So I just want to highlight the very, very last thing. Then I will hand over to Emma. Okay, so can I please request that you submit an essay that is at least 6 pages. Please try not to get your essay less than 6 pages. Okay, if you want to submit 3 pages, 4 pages, you're most likely going to not do too well for your essay, okay? So please try at the very minimum to submit 6 pages, okay? So that's about it from my side, guys. And I really wish you the best for your tests, and I hope you enjoy the new course. Please try and get a textbook. If you don't have a textbook, you're gonna need a textbook for this course, okay? Okay, good luck, guys, and I wish you the best for your tests, and enjoy your new course. Okay, bye-bye. See you guys later. Cheers, Emma.
Thank you. Can you just make me host again? And then we can get started.
Let me...
All right. Let's get started. Okay, firstly, let's just turn off screen sharing and go to what we're going to do. All right, is everyone seeing a picture of a brain right now?
Yes.
Okay, fantastic. So let's get started. Here you go. Okay, so welcome to biological psychology. This was my favorite course in first year, so hopefully this can also be your favorite course. We're going to be running it over March and April, obviously breaking up for VAC. I don't expect you to come to lectures for VAC. I know I certainly would not. So yeah, let me just take you through some logistics, and then I'm going to throw you into the deep end and talk to you about viruses. So let's get going. Okay, so just about me. I did a BSc undergrad majoring in biochemistry and psychology. I'm doing my BSc, well, I've done my BSc honors in psychology, and now I'm doing my master's by thesis in psychology. Specifically, my research is in statistics, anxiety, and some neuroscience to do with that statistics. And Mr. Zondo is my supervisor, actually. Currently, I'm teaching chemistry and biology at a Cambridge curriculum school in East London, South Africa, which is why you might notice that my background looks a little bit more sunny and happy compared to your normal Makanda vibes. My pronouns are she, her, and you can see here, I didn't put a photo of myself. I'm very adverse to photos, and also I'm quite bitter about the fact that COVID has robbed me of not one, but two graduations now. So that's just how you can know me. I'm also your grad assistant, so you might be familiar with me. You might know me from my salty emails because people can't look through a list and find their names, and then I have to go find them for them. But anyway, that's behind us now. So just the course structure quickly. We're going to be running from today, the 28th of March, all the way through to the 29th of April. Don't worry, you won't be seeing my face for a full month. We're going to have those 4 teaching weeks. And you can see there, I've put this on our Are You Connected as well. We have this week, VAC starts on Friday, and then we resume on the 11th of April. Okay. You'll also note there, we've got lectures, but lecture 3 and 7, which are on Wednesday, the 30th of March. So this week, Wednesday, and the 13th of April, which is the week we get back from VAC, those are going to be pre-recorded, which means that on Wednesday afternoon, I will just upload those to Are You Connected as per usual. I will talk through your slides so you don't have to self-study, but they will be pre-recorded. Lectures are going to take place via Zoom and YouTube, which is what we're doing now. You should be quite familiar with it, but if you do have any questions about that, please feel free to email me. Okay, your test is going to be on the 28th and 29th of April. It's going to be that usual thing where it opens the night before and then closes 5 p.m. on the Friday. It's going to be on all the coursework that has been covered in this, and I will highlight a few things and say this will definitely be in, this won't be in, don't worry too much about that kind of thing. Same thing, multiple choice format on Are You Connected, 1 hour to complete it. If you have an LOA, you can email it to me as the lecturer, but it needs to go to Voyo. Voyo is the one who processes LOAs. So even though I need to receive it as your lecturer, not as your grad assistant, as your lecturer, Voyo is the person that can actually grant LOAs. I don't have any powers in that department. Okay. How to get in touch with me? You can email me about any coursework stuff, whether that be clarification of something, questions about the tutorial or the test, or thoughts, comments, concerns. I don't know if you want to come moan at me about something, that's also okay, sure. For week 1 and 2, I'm only available to answer emails from 2 p.m. onwards. Please be patient with me and I will get back to you. That also applies to people that have emailed me about grad assistant stuff. We are still trying to settle tutorial things. As you can imagine, it is very, very difficult to place 700 plus people into tutorial groups. You can only Telegram me about grad assistant stuff, not for lecturing things. So nothing about this course, just because I want to keep that boundary and I want to make sure that I can actually have my email records of you guys needing help. And if I see something on Telegram, I know, okay, cool, grad assistant stuff, not as serious. Okay. We're going to have a tutorial on the 22nd of April. We normally have tutorials on a Friday. The 22nd of April is a Friday. You'll notice there isn't one this week because VAC is starting. And I know as a former Psych 1 student that when VAC starts, nothing else happens. Okay, so on the 22nd of April, we're going to have a tutorial. Originally, we were going to do a practice test, but what we're rather going to do is an essay writing workshop with your tutors to prepare you for Psych 101, your essay hand-in. Obviously, it's one of the first essays you're going to have to write in your university career if you're a G22, so we thought it would be very helpful. And even if you are quite self-assured in your essay abilities, we also need to introduce you to the right referencing style, which is APA. That's a little bit complicated, so that tutorial, not one to miss. Also, it's a tutorial, so if you miss it, LOA. Otherwise, you get marked absent, and it's a DP requirement. Okay, we will communicate the exact format and setting after VAC. We're trying to move things around and see if we can maybe have it in person. Personally, I feel like it would be good to have an in-person tutorial, but again, 700 people, but like herding cats. I will get back to everyone about tutor group changes. Just hang tight, like I said. Okay, essay topic. I will post this as a separate thing and give some guidelines for marks and stuff like that. But I just want to briefly float it to you so you can all start thinking about it now. Okay, since we're talking about the brain and neural pathways and all of those things, I thought it would be quite interesting to take a topic that we usually did, which was alcohol addiction and the brain, and modify it to something that's more synonymous with youth culture. So I'm just going to read through this. Marijuana use has become synonymous with youth culture. Give a description of tetrahydrocannabinol, or THC, as a drug, and detail how marijuana differs from cannabis. Your essay should further A, highlight the positive and negative effects of using cannabis, not marijuana, cannabis. B, explain the neural pathways and receptors that are activated by THC in the brain, so bringing it into the biopsych. And then C, describe the physiological and psychological effects of the activation of the above neural pathways. So when those pathways are activated, what's happening on a physiological level? So what's happening to the body? What's happening on a psychological level? What's happening in your head? Conclude your essay by describing how marijuana use can or cannot lead to drug addiction and drug dependency in youth culture. Okay. Quite topical, quite interesting. Hopefully you guys choose this one instead of the developmental psych essay, but completely up to you. You do not write both. Just want to reiterate that. Okay. Does anyone have any questions before I jump into some terminology we need to know? I'm going to keep the chat open. Otherwise you can raise your hand and we can do it like that. Okay, no one have any questions? Okay. So, what is biological psychology? This was Mr. Zondo's definition from his old slides, because I've kind of taken over from him doing this course. Biological psychology is the study of physiological, evolutionary, and developmental mechanisms that create or influence behavior. So biopsych, it's actually looking at three things: the physiological, the evolutionary, and the developmental mechanisms that are going to have an effect on the way that we do things. Okay. Further career fields are going to be in the medical environment if you are quite stoked on this biological psych stuff. Okay. This includes clinical counseling psychology, clinical neuropsychology. That's a new one. Neuropsych has recently become something that the HPCSA has recognized as its own discipline. You can go into diagnosis and clinical care, that kind of thing. Personally, I would love to be a clinical psychologist one day, but I'm also really, really interested just in neuroscience in general. And it's a really exciting and developing field in South Africa. So yeah, hopefully I can see a few of you doing the rounds with me one day. In this course, we're going to be looking at brain anatomy. We're going to be looking at pathology, so what happens when things go wrong. We're going to be looking at brain development, substance abuse, and psychopharmacology. We're also going to be looking very briefly at a few brain disorders, but yeah, we'll get there when we get there. I have outlined all of this stuff in your course outline, which is on Are You Connected? By now, we should all be on the Are You Connected page. If not, let me know. But if you are seeing me right now, there's a very good chance that you are on the page, or you are registered for Psych and you'll automatically be on that. Okay. Wow, let me change. Okay. Viruses. Also, you know, it's kind of like something with viruses happened recently. I don't know, just general feeling I've had. But viruses are something that we kind of need to discuss because it is something that can have a profound effect on our brain and our general biological psychology stuff. Okay, so viruses, they are a little bit strange because while we have DNA, their nucleic acid can be DNA or RNA. The difference is DNA is deoxyribonucleic acid, whereas RNA is just ribonucleic acid. So it doesn't have the deoxygenated sugar. Don't worry about that. I'm teaching that to my grade 10 bio kids at the moment. They don't understand either. Don't expect you to either. All you need to know is that the reason why viruses are a little bit more complicated and tricky to figure out is because their nucleic acids can be DNA like us or RNA, which is a completely different ballpark. We have RNA as well. RNA is actually what codes our body to make more DNA. So a lot of misconceptions with the coronavirus, for example, where a lot of the available vaccines are RNA based, people feel like RNA is a brand new thing that we're putting into our bodies. And obviously that is a very scary thing to put something unknown into your body. But RNA is a very, very natural thing that we already found in our systems, in our cells, making DNA for us. So nothing scary, nothing new. It's just been modified so that it knows specifically to code for DNA and to code for proteins that are going to fight the coronavirus. Okay. Viruses, so now they have their DNA in the middle, just like a normal cell. Oh, what is RNA again? RNA is ribonucleic acid. Don't need to know that. Okay. It's got its DNA in the middle, or RNA. It's then surrounded by a protein called a capsid. Okay. That just kind of protects it. It gives its shape. If you did bio in school, it's like the cell wall equivalent. It's then also sometimes surrounded by an envelope. The envelope also causes issues for us because that envelope protects the virus from things that we throw at it and try and, you know, kill the thing. Some examples of DNA viruses. So when a virus is naked, it means that there isn't an envelope, because I've said there sometimes it can have an envelope, sometimes it doesn't. An example of that is the papilloma virus, which causes HPV. HPV, if you're not familiar with that, is an STI mostly, and it can lead to cervical cancer. There's a high correlation / relationship between developing HPV and being more susceptible to cervical cancer, obviously in women. Men can also carry HPV though, so really no one is safe from it. There's been vaccines in the recent years that have become more and more mandatory for women to get, or biological females, to get. And yeah, it's sore, but it's nice. Helps you, gives you a little bit of protection against HPV, but not the best protection. We all know how that is brought about. But it is an example of how a vaccine can help prevent a virus, but not completely eradicate it. That's why a lot of people are like, well, what's the point of the COVID vaccine if I'm still going to maybe get COVID? Yes, you're going to get COVID probably if you come into contact with it, but there's much less chance of you getting it badly, and there's much less chance of you being susceptible to it. Okay, what's the full name of HPV? Human papilloma virus. Okay, that's the name of the disease. An enveloped DNA is the herpes virus, HSV. And I said there on the side, I was trying to be funny. There could have been a photo of herpes here, but I decided to spare you guys. Okay, I'm sure we're all familiar with that, especially as university students. Okay, sorry. Some RNA viruses that I wanted to highlight. There can be two shapes of RNA viruses. We can have helical, which means they literally look like a slinky, like a spring. And we can have icosahedral, which you can see there's also a different shape. So an example of a helical and enveloped one is the orthomyxovirus, which can cause influenza. An icosahedral naked RNA virus is picorna, which can cause HIV or hepatitis. Okay, we all know what hepatitis is. Icosahedral and enveloped RNA viruses, there's two types that I want you to highlight, the corona and the retrovirus. Okay, coronavirus can cause the corona SARS disease, which is severe acute respiratory syndrome. So that's why coronavirus is always connected to coughing, upper respiratory, lower respiratory, affects your lungs, all of that stuff. Retroviruses cause HIV, and that's why we take antiretrovirals, okay? All right. I just want to show here how this is relevant to biopsych. Because viruses are quite unpredictable and quite tricky little boys, they can do something and basically attack brain cell and brain matter. You can see here, there's a loss of brain matter and the significance of, so like what's it affecting and how badly is it affecting it in HIV and AIDS. We're going to speak about that mechanism in the next few slides, but as you can see, viruses are something we should be concerned about as biological psychologists because it can have a marked effect on our brain. How this happens is we have a thing called the blood-brain barrier. This is going to be a very, very important context. I mean, a very, very important concept in biological psychology. So the blood-brain barrier is literally a barrier between your blood and your brain. Yeah, I know, mind-blowing, very, very complicated. To use more fancy schmancy terms, it's an epithelial layer that prevents solutes from crossing into the central nervous system. As we will learn, the central nervous system is basically our brain, and the epithelial layer is basically stopping our blood in our blood vessels from crossing into our brain. It's a semi-permeable border, which means that some things can get in and some things can come out. There's selective crossing, which means that the blood-brain barrier has its own mechanism of deciding what comes in and out. It restricts the passage of pathogens, solutes, and larger hydrophilic molecules, but it does allow in oxygen because obviously we need oxygen in our brain so that it can function. It allows carbon dioxide to cross the blood-brain barrier to go out our brain, back into our blood system so it can go out again. It allows hormones, some drugs, anything that is needed for cognitive functioning. Things like SSRIs that we use in depression and anxiety, that obviously needs to get to our brain so that it can help with the synapses and things like that. We'll talk about that later. And obviously those have been designed to cross the blood-brain barrier. But the blood-brain barrier is something that is quite complicated, and we're going to see why now. Okay, so because we have this barrier, blood-borne infections of the brain are rare, which means that something that starts in the blood and goes to the brain, we don't often see those kinds of diseases. The selectivity means that infections can occur, and when they do occur, they are difficult to treat. So once something gets in there, it's very tricky to get something else in there, like sorted out. Okay, antibodies, for example, can't pass. Only some antibiotics can pass. So quite a scary thing. Okay, examples of viruses that can cross it. The Zika virus, that's why we were seeing issues in the development of babies in women that had tested positive for Zika virus. The West Nile virus, tick-borne encephalitis, HIV, that's the one we were talking about earlier, and COVID. there's been research into the fact that COVID can cross the blood-brain barrier and have marked effects on our brain functioning. Some examples of bacteria are syphilis, meningitis, and pneumonia. Very famously, Nietzsche, the philosopher who lost his mind, he had syphilis, and it is very commonly agreed upon that he died of syphilis and he went crazy because it got into his brain. Okay, here's another image just to show you. There's that blood, there's the barrier, there's our brain. It's showing there how HIV can be allowed through and how we've been trying to figure out different ways of drug delivery. So different ways to design drugs in order for them to pass through and then, help out. Okay, I'm just going to pause here and ask if we have any questions. I see someone's asking, are the slides on Are You Connected? So I did spell this out in the course outline, which I'm going to move to now if we have some time, which we do. But I am inclined not to put these slides on Are You Connected? The reason why is because I'm going to be putting these recordings on Are You Connected? So the slides will be redundant. And I know that some students will then not watch the lectures, leave them alone, and then when it comes time to write a test, try and zoom through the slides like this to find what they need. And you're not going to learn that way. Trust me. Okay? Please explain more about the Zika virus. So the Zika virus was something that I think there was like a bit of an outbreak of it. I vaguely remember it being 2016, but if someone wants to correct me, please feel free to in the chat. And it is basically a virus that is spread by, I think, mosquitoes, and it was quite prominent in South America. And it was causing problems because the Rio Olympics were around that time, and there was great concern that any spectators or coaches or players or participants that caught the Zika virus could then pass this on to their unborn children or to a pregnant woman with an unborn child. Okay. Hey, everyone, are we on part 3 or 4 according to the textbook? I will show you where we are in the textbook right now, actually. Does malaria fall into a virus? Malaria is a pathogen. Okay, so it doesn't really cross the blood-brain barrier as far as I'm aware, because most pathogens don't. So yeah, but I will, if someone can look that up for me and tell me in the next lesson, I will be very chuffed. May you please re-explain the selective crossing in the blood-brain barrier? Sure thing. Okay, selective crossing basically means that it's almost as if this little border has a mind of its own, and it decides what's coming in or out. I explained carrier proteins, which has a similar concept, to my students as like bouncers at a door at a nightclub, and they're kind of like standing there like this, and then they decide who's coming in and out. There is that selective crossing, semi-permeable, so very easily the bouncers can move out the way and let you in, but they can also not let you. Okay? That selective crossing basically means that some molecules will be allowed to pass if they chemically agree with the blood-brain barrier. So this is all on a chemical level. But if it is something that the blood-brain barrier recognizes as not being needed for cognitive functioning, it won't allow it through. Unfortunately, though, some viruses and bacteria have been able to have the right chemical makeup to kind of trick the blood-brain barrier into letting it in. And that's something we need to put more research in so that we can stop that from happening. If the blood-brain barrier is in control of what it allows inside, why does it allow bad blood and unneeded stuff in? Okay, so I just basically explained that. Some of the bad stuff tricks the blood-brain barrier into letting it in. So it's like a bouncer at the door, and then you're like, no, I'm not even that drunk. I'm not that drunk. Let me in. I'm not going to cause a fight. And then it's like, okay, gives you the benefit of the doubt, lets you in. Next thing you know, you're falling down the fryer stairs. Okay, that kind of situation. My uncle had malaria a few years ago and it kind of affected his brain and he had to be admitted into a clinic for brain sick people. Well, then thank you for sharing that. I imagine then malaria does have a mechanism in the brain. I'm going to Google it very, very quickly. But basically you can type in whatever it is, malaria, blood-brain barrier, and let's see what happens. Okay, so cerebral malaria, which is a certain strain of malaria that can cross the blood-brain barrier, and it can actually cause it to break down. And if it breaks down, more bad stuff can get in, and then obviously that is going to have a marked effect. Okay, I'm now going to start a new share of the, what's it called? Hold on, no, let me open it. There you go. And I'm just going to briefly take you through the course outline, which is going to really, really outline what we are doing in this course. You can find that on Are You Connected? It's already up and waiting for you. Okay. It starts off with an introduction to biological psychology that Mr. Zondo wrote from his time doing this course. Okay, it's a beautiful, beautiful introduction into what we're doing, and it's going to give you a much deeper understanding as to why this is important to us as future psychologists. Okay, I then also outline the course outcomes and objectives. So every course that you do should have objectives and outcomes. Objectives are like, what do we want you to do in this course? And outcomes are, once you leave this course and we wave goodbye to you, what should you know? Okay. Lecture times, these are also on Are You Connected? I put them as a photo so you can literally click on it every time and see it very quickly. I put the textbook there, as well as the chapters 7, 22, and 24. I'm also going to put additional resources. Most of them are videos. They're very, very useful. I love a good video because I can just sit there and kind of just let it do its thing. And they are extremely helpful to kind of understand these things. There's a really nice one on the blood-brain barrier, for example. Those are up on Are You Connected already? Lecture schedule, just basically what are we doing each day? You can see there, history of neuroscience, neuroembryology, and the CNS are what we're doing this week. When we come back, we're going to do the peripheral nervous system, the forebrain, and then neurons and neural transmission. Then we're going to do neurotransmitters and substance abuse. And then in the last 2 lessons, we're going to do psychopathology. That's all the interesting stuff, like why are psychopaths the way that they are? Okay. Moving on, I also put the course assessments there. I do need to change the date of your essay. That's going to now be the 23rd of May. I put that there. I will also make a separate document explaining really in detail the way Mr. Zondo was explaining it, what we want in your essay. The tutorial on this 22nd of April, we'll let you know about that, is a DP requirement. Just checking the chat again. Aren't the viruses that managed to enter the brain studied and researched? I didn't understand you in that part. Yes, we do very much study these viruses and stuff, despite what conspiracy theorists want you to believe. We have been studying the coronavirus for years now because different strains of it have been around. It's just never been this bad. All the viruses are like that, but viruses have this very, very annoying habit of mutating. And that's something that we need to keep in mind. That's why we're constantly studying them, restudying them, and spending a lot of time on them. Okay? So we're constantly trying to figure out why do they cross the blood-brain barrier and how can we stop that? So for example, maybe the protein, that capsid that they're made out of, maybe that capsid has a certain chemical property that allows it through. That then we can maybe think, okay, is there something we can do or some kind of medication we can take that can change the protein structure and then no longer it will be allowed in? Those are the kinds of things we're looking at when we're doing neuroscience research. Very, very interesting stuff. Are we going to cover how the brain becomes dead? We are going to look at brain atrophy and the different ways that the brain cells can die off. That's all in the pathology, psychopharmacology, those kinds of sections. How is attendance taken? So Are You Connected has a very nifty tool where I can see who has accessed the recordings of the videos, and the participants in each lecture are also on record. So yeah, make sure that you attend. If you can't attend, watch the recording. If not, and you come to me and you're like, listen, homie, you just set the most horrific test of my life. I'm going to sue you for emotional damage. I'm going to be like, fantastic. However, you did not access this course once. So take me to Judge Judy, bestie. Okay. What about those who watch on YouTube? That's also accounted for and all of that stuff. Please don't worry. Just make sure that you are watching those videos. I promise let me try that again. I promise you, we can tell when you are not engaging. Okay. Just general stuff. If you want to ask a question in class, just raise your hand using that thing or whatever. Or you can just interrupt me. I also don't mind that. Just like, please do not give me a frat. I'm very skittish, but you can just kind of be like, ma'am, can I ask something? And you can do that. Also, don't call me ma'am. I'm very young. Okay. You can just call me Emma. Miss Emma. I know a lot of people call me Miss Emma, like it's a respect thing. If you want to call me Emma, that's also completely chilled. If you want to call me Miss Wagner, that's on you. Good luck pronouncing it. And I'm sorry that it sounds so apartheidy. So yeah, I'm going to sign off. We're done for today. We're going to stick to lecture times as much as possible. I really, really hope that you enjoy this time. I think we're going to have a lot of fun. I love discussions and chats and how does this work? How does that work? Those kinds of things. So yeah, let's have a good one, guys. Enjoy the rest of your days.
Bye.
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 Good to meet all of you. I'm going to sign off now. I'm just waiting for people to leave. Sorry, Yazini asked, so is the essay going to be uploaded on Are You Connected? I think that's going to be an in-person hand-in, but the essay topic I will upload onto Are You Connected? All right, but we will communicate that with you guys closer to the time. We are trying to move to more in-person stuff because quite frankly, it's been a little bit depressing to not see you guys. So yeah, we will keep you updated. And thanks, and enjoy the rest of your day. It's only 4 o'clock, so go do something.